Where Yahusha HaMashiach this day, John 5:39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. But another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that comes from Elohim only? Let's swing our way to Genesis chapter 4. In verse 19, and we'll be done with Jabal. Genesis 4:19. Don't go in that bathroom. Don't go in that bathroom.
No?
Yeah, he said it. No, he didn't come back.
What? Did you got baby got maintenance?
And Lamech took unto him two wives. The name of one was Abba, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Abba bare Jabal, and he was the father of such as dwell in tents, and as such as have cattle. So now we have to sit back and look at how he would be the father of them that have cattle. And that means we would have to look at the first father of him that has cattle. And let's go to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 26.
You want me to call maintenance nothing? I ain't never.
Well, Genesis 1 and 24, I'm sorry.
Make sure that break on first.
And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle, and creeping thing and beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so. And Elohim made the beast of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creep upon the earth after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. Elohim said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creep upon the earth. So we see the first man that we're going to look at to see who was actually a shepherd or a keeper of cattle would be Adam. Let's go to Genesis chapter 2 and verse 18. Hey, that noise, children. And Yahuwah Elohim said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him. And out of the ground Yahuwah formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. Whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. Adam gave names to all the cattle and all the fowl of the air and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helpmeet for him. So y'all should know this here, because we done dealt with, some of y'all wouldn't remember this here, but we dealt with this a very, very long time ago. So you see, Adam is called to name all the cattle, and he was the caretaker and had dominion over the cattle. So it was his job to be a shepherd or care for the cattle. So let's look at something in this nature where we're going to take it, we're going to work it this way. Genesis chapter 33. We're just going to work it this way. And the reason why we're going to sit back and look at this here is, again, you're going to see all of our forefathers, just like we seen last night that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were those who were the fathers of those who dwelled in tents. And we actually going to see Jacob dwelling in his tent in a moment. We'll also see that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were also shepherds. And that was a consistent theme and occupation of all of our people. Matter of fact, go to Genesis chapter 4 verse 1, because you'll be interested to see what Hebrew word this is in Genesis chapter 4 and verse 1. Well, in verse 2. And Adam knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from Yahuwah. And she bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. Now the Hebrew word for keeper in this verse, I'll ask you this here. What English word do you think that word keeper would be equivalent to? As far as because the Hebrew word is ra'ah. And you know some of our words mean different things. So if he said he was a keeper of sheep, what do you think, what English word would you think would be relative to that? Just looking at the context of what it says he was, if he was a keeper of sheep. Try to make it simple, because I know that's kind of a broad question. That's why I say if you just
like a farmer?
Not necessarily a farmer. If he's a keeper of sheep, and we looking at he's a Hold on, somebody, because I got an echo. So I can't really hear what you're saying. I know somebody was trying to say something, but the echo hit him. That Hebrew word for keeper of sheep is the same word that you will see for pastor. That word ra'ah, it also can mean friend, depending on when it's used. But that's the same Hebrew word for pastor. So what we see is that we see the Hebrew word for pastor here to describe Abel. And who was the one that was accepted of Yahuwah between the two? It was the one who was a pastor, the one who kept the sheep or was a keeper of cattle. So we see that Adam passed his occupation down to who? His son. So now we're going to have to look at that and tie that to Mashiach to see how he would take it in terms, just real quickly, of how he would pass that on to his sons. Because now when we're looking at son, this is not necessarily going to all the way correlate to the people directly, but then it will correlate to the people directly at the same token. Because what we're looking at is how is Jabal, this stream of water, the father of those who keep tents, who dwell in tents, but also keep sheep or keep cattle. Because the people who keep cattle are the ones who are actually watching over that cattle, which would pertain to them to be able to dwell in the tent, which also would pertain to them to have access to the stream of water, which would actually pertain to what we talked about Wednesday with that last tabernacles and actually entering into the kingdom of Elohim. So let's look at Luke chapter 3 about verse 27. How you said that sound like you found a problem.
Niche.
Are you?
You said don't?
Not Genesis 3 and 27. Good grief, we definitely can't use that. Genesis 3, not even Genesis, I'm sorry. Luke 3 and 35, not Luke 3 and 27. Luke 3 and 35. Which was the son of Sirach, which was the son of Ragu, which is the son of Phalek, which is the son of Eber, which was the son of Salah, which is the son of Canaan, which was the son of Oxbad, which is the son of Shem, which was the son of Noah, which was the son of Lamech, which was the son of Methuselah, which was the son of Enoch, which was the son of Jared, which was the son of Malil, which was the son of Canaan, which is the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of Elohim. So we see that Adam, now of course you know Seth is Elohim is giving me another seed to replace Abel. So if Seth is replacing Abel, we would be able to deduce that Seth was a keeper of sheep just like Abel was. That keeper of sheep that Abel was cost him his life. And that's going to be relative in a moment. But what we're looking at is Adam is the son of Elohim, just like Yahusha is the son of Elohim. Why is that important? 1 Corinthians 15 and 45. We start a little bit. Let's take the long way with it. First Corinthians 15 and 40. Make it 44. Matter of fact, 42. Where did Abigail flee to? Oh, that's Hezekiah. So also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption, it is raised in incorruption. It is sown as dishonor, it is raised in esteem. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. It is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. There's a natural body and there's a spiritual body. That takes us back to what we were talking about with last night. We're dwelling in those tents. That Abel was in a position of weakness because he was killed for righteousness' sake. And then Seth was raised up to take his place. I said that Elohim gave us another seed, which take us also back to what we read in Ecclesiastes about a second son will stand in his stead or in his place. Because Seth is representative of being born again or being made of a spiritual seed and not a natural seed. You know what I'm saying? All of us have been produced of a natural seed. Like I told you before, everybody has the Ruach of Elohim in them, but everybody doesn't have the Ruach HaKadosh in them. Because everybody has this man's breath. Because everybody say everybody has the Holy Spirit. Yeah, and they would be right to a certain extent. Because you do. You have his breath in your lungs. But you don't have his eternal spirit that will graft you into everlasting life. And like even what we were discussing with that discussion just generally, when we look at certain things, Which, of course, before we were in the Word, our viewpoints and perspectives would have been crafted different depending on the situation and circumstance. But now we should look at every single movement and relation of human behavior to the lens of what the Word would say it is. You know what I'm saying? Because if we see the Word say that love don't seek his own, then we would have to ascertain that any level of selfishness, love is not present. Because our Elohim said that that's not the aspect of what manifestation of love is. When we see what Cain did, Cain was only thinking about himself. He didn't sit back and look at Abel had nothing to do with you not bringing an acceptable sacrifice. That had nothing to do with him. But all you was thinking about was yourself, so you allowed the root of your selfishness, and you exhibited that on another person. To the point where you was also being such because you envied them and you were jealous of them, and that moved you to take his life. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the, like I told you before, and we talked about this before, pride is probably the biggest reason why a lot of people gonna go to hell. Really, it's probably 3 reasons that's gonna take most people down: pride, selfishness, and lust. Whatever person lusting after, because you ain't necessarily got to be lusting after no sexual thing. Because some people lust after money. Some people lust after the esteem of men. You know what I'm saying? So you have to look at that. And you have. I can't hear you because of the echo. Say that again.
Disbelief.
Yeah, disbelief is one of them. But what I would look at that all that pride, selfishness, and lust are all examples of disbelief, because there was no way you could believe in Yah and those things rest in you. And the reason why I say that is because if he say a man don't take care of his own household, he's denied the faith and is worse than the infidel. So he's telling you that if you don't even take care of your children, there's nowhere in the world you could say that you believe in me. By tact of that action, it manifests disbelief. Because that's the point that I'm trying to get to. Pride and selfishness are kind of 2 different things, because pride can just be you stubborn and you don't want to listen, versus or you puffed up and you think you better than somebody. You know what I'm saying? Versus selfishness is I put myself first. What I want is all that matters, and I could care less about anybody else. Which with the root of that, an example of true love cannot exist, because the love of Elohim tells you to serve versus seeking to serve. Because the master said, I didn't come to be children. The master said he didn't come to be ministered unto, he came to minister. So he said, I didn't come to be served, I came to serve. So he was not seeking his own interest above somebody else's. Where we at? 1 Corinthians 15 and 44. It is sown a natural body, is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body. And so it is written, the second Adam was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening ruach. So when we look at that last Adam has to set up keepers of cattle and sheep, just like the first one did. Because the first Adam was a keeper of cattle. So the second Adam has to be one as well. But we talked about what Booth was about. Now we're going to look at it in another aspect. So before we look at Genesis 33, let's look at Numbers 33. Hold on. Pardon me for a moment.
Hey!
This is how we used to
Hold on that door down every last one. You can come out of here and sit on your black behind and be quiet. And you can make the choice for yourself.
No Abigail.
There you go.
Hey, Abigail. Numbers 33 and let me see. Numbers 33 and 3. Matter of fact, we'll make it Numbers 33 and 1 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Numbers 33 and 1. These are the journeys of the children of Yasharal, which went forth out of the land of Mizraim with their armies under the hand of Moses and Aaron. Pause, because I got something for that. He said they came up out of the land of Mizraim under the hand of Moses and Aaron. So let's seek some more understanding. Go to the book of Psalms. The book of Psalms. Because y'all willing, we got to tie it all in together and make it smooth. Dang, I'm trying to find where I had that at. Dang, I can't find where I had that. That sucks considerably. Oh, I want to say it's Psalms 80, but I shall see. See, now I feel like they're trying me now. Are they trying me or am I overreacting?
At the outside, really don't even really hear nothing, honestly.
You know, I just felt like somebody was singing. So the Psalms 77, my bad. Psalm 77 and about verse 16. Matter of fact, verse 15. Psalm 77 and 15. It said, Moses and Aaron is the one who led the armies out, or the host. Because eventually we're going to sit back and end it with the shepherd leading, or the keeper of cattle leading the people out like he led them out at the first. He led you out to keep Passover, and he's going to lead you out lastly to keep tabernacles. Now, hold on. Make it verse 13. I ain't heard nothing. Thy way, O Elohim, is in the sanctuary. Who is a great Elohim is our Elohim. So remember, way is the rock, the way to the highest that covers sins. He say the way of Elohim is in the sanctuary. We talked about dwelling in tents last night. He told you in Hebrews chapter 8 that Yahusha is the sanctuary that he made without hands. So the way of Elohim is in the sanctuary or in the temple or in the tent. So that's the way of Elohim. That's what you got to consider. Let's look at the next thing. Thou art the Elohim that do wonders. Thou hast declared thy strength among the people. Thou hast with thy arm redeemed thy people. The sons of Jacob and Joseph, Selah. The water saw thee, O Elohim, and the water saw thee. They were afraid, and the depths were also troubled. The clouds poured out water. The skies sent out a sound. Thine arrows also went abroad. The voice of thy thunder was in Shamahim. The lightning lightened the world, and the earth trembled and shook. If you can't really catch this here, this is actually telling you about his return, the same way that he did that to them on our way out. Thy way is in the sea, and thy path in the great waters, and thy footsteps are not known. See, now that goes along to something here too, because I done had this conversation a couple times. There are a lot of things that we have questions about, and we wonder why the book don't tell it, because everything that y'all does is not for you to know. Most of y'all on this phone, in this room, and on this screen have children. You don't tell your children every single solitary thing that you do and every step that you make, because that's not their concern for them to know that. The things that y'all want you to know are the things that you need to know to save your soul, and those are the things that we need to be focused on. We need to always remember what David said. I do not exercise my things that are too high for me. Because the minute we try to exercise our things that are too high for us, it's like we trying to take Yah's place. Feeling like as a child that the parent is obligated to tell you everything that he does. And he's not obligated to tell you that. He said, thou led thy people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. He said he led the people as a flock by Moses and Aaron. So Moses and Aaron would be considered to be the shepherds over the people at that particular time, because they're the ones who led them out. Let's go back to, because you know what that tie you back into what the master said in John chapter 10, which most high willing we probably end up going back round to. He led them out, he brought them in, and he led them out. Okay, Numbers 33.
So what's going back in the oven and what's it? Well, sorry.
Oh, you all right, bro. Numbers 33 and 1.
I'm not sure yet. I just want to put your food back in. I gotta grab some tools. I just want to check.
These are the journeys of the children of Yasharal, which went forth out of the land of Mizraim with their armies.
Put stuff back in the oven for a little bit, and we'll run to the shop and grab some of our stuff.
Under the hand of Moses and Aaron. And Moses wrote their goings out according to their journeys by the commandment of Yahuwah, and these are their journeys according to their goings out. And they departed from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month, on the morrow after the Passover of the children of Yasharal, went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians. I want y'all to always remember that you did not leave out on Passover. You left out on the first day of unleavened bread. Which also will tie in why the master say, pray not that your flight be on the Shabbat. Because when they left out, what way would they flight on? Yeah, that's when they put the blood on the door. They didn't leave that night. They left the next day. Hold on, I'm seeking the meaning of the name of Ramses. They did not leave on the 14th day. They left on the 15th day. The city Ramses means child of the sun. That's what it means. It's literally what it means. Yeah. Say what? Yeah, but they didn't leave on. No, they didn't leave on the 14th day though. They left on the 15th day. You know, they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the first month, but I can't hear you. That's when they left. They didn't. That's what I'm saying. They didn't leave on the 14th day though. They left on the 15th day. That's what I'm saying. That's what the text. That's what we just read. They left on the 15th day. Passover on the 14th day. So they didn't leave the day of Passover. They left the next day. They left the actual first day, what Leviticus 23 would say is the first day of unleavened bread. Because remember, the Passover is not considered, according to the text, the first day of unleavened bread, though it is the first day of unleavened bread. If we go back and we read Leviticus 23, it's going to tell you that next day is the first day of unleavened bread. Let's look at it and see. Leviticus 23. So like the actual, because the night of the Passover, they supposed to be in the bed. They weren't even supposed to come out of the house. You know what I'm saying? Then when they woke up the next day, all these people were dead. And then they put them out on the 15th. That's when they left. Leviticus 23 and verse 4. These are the feasts of Yahuwah, even Kadesh convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. In the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahuwah's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahuwah. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. And in the first day you shall have a Kadesh convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. So you see that the 15th day is when they left. That's actually considered to be the first day of unleavened bread. So a lot of people, because I know a lot of brews argue about that, but Passover and unleavened bread are the same thing, but they two different things at the same time. Back to Numbers 33. They read verse 3 again. And they departed from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month, on the morrow after the Passover. The children of Yasharal went out with an high hand in the sight of all of Mizraim. For all of Mizraim buried all their firstborn, which Yahuwah had smitten among them. Upon their gods also Yahuwah executed judgment. And the children of Yasharal removed from Ramses and pitched in Succoth. So y'all know what that is. You know what that word. You know what that word means? The Succoth. Or suck it, so to speak. That's booths. That goes back to what we were looking at last night when he said they dwell in booths, because that's the city that they went from. They went from the child of the sun to the city of booths. But why is that important? Because now we look at Genesis chapter 33. And now you can see the rationale of why he calls them to dwell in booths. Genesis 33 and 14. She looked like she holding on.
You like that bad one right on?
Let my master, I pray thee, pass over before his servant, and I will lead on softly, according as the cattle that go before me, and the children be able to endure until I come unto my master unto Seir. And Esau said, let me now leave with thee some of the folk that are with me. And he said, what needed? Let me find favor in the sight of my master. So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built him a house and made him booths for his cattle. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. Jacob came to Shalem, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, which he had came from Padaram, and pitched his tent before the city. And he bought a parcel of a field where he had spread his tent at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. And he erected there an altar and called it Al Alo Yasharal. So let's sit back and let's look at all of that and let's derive some understanding of that, because it's a lot of things in that. When it says that he came to the city of Shalem, what city you think that is? What city y'all think that is? Shalem. Well, Shalom, that's how you would pronounce it. That's exactly what city he approached unto. That's what when you look at what that word means, he approached unto Jerusalem. But let's look at this here.
I thought that line was
You can't never be stupid.
I really did.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna start saying it, because I really didn't know. I thought
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're wrong or not. I mean, they can tell you that most of the times you already be knowing what it is. You just convince yourself that you don't know what it is. So when we look at he journeyed to Booth and built him a house. Let's see how he built him a house first and foremost. We need to see that, don't we? Let's look at Hebrews chapter 2. You ain't even crying for real, Malia. I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all. And let's take it right back to what we were discussing last night and tie both of them together. Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 17, I suppose. Actually about verse 14. For as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that had power of death, that is the devil, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. For truly he took not on him the nature of Malachim, he took on him the seed of Abraham. Wherefore in all things it behooved him to be made like unto his brethren, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to Elohim, to make reconciliation for the sins of the people. So when we turn around and we look at this here, right, it says he built him a house. So we have to sit back how he built him a house in this place called Booth to see how Mashiach built him a house. He just told you that he didn't take on the nature of Malachim, but he built him a booth. You know what that booth is, right? We looked at it. What you make the booth out of? Goodly trees, leaves. So what was that? So in actuality, what is that booth? Is it a permanent dwelling place or a temporary dwelling place? So when we look at him making a house in the city of Booth, we have to look at Yahusha making a temporary dwelling place, or his body was a temporary dwelling place. So that's where we have to sit back and look at that our physical bodies are nothing but a temporary dwelling place. You're looking to actually construct a permanent dwelling place. You understand what I'm saying? Let's look at something in 2 Corinthians chapter 5. Because you got to realize something. Before he can build a booth or a dwelling place for his cattle, he had to build a house for himself. And then he could be able to provide somewhere for his cattle to stay. Because we're seeing that Jacob is a shepherd. He's a keeper of cattle, is he not? Can we not swing back around and we could look in Genesis 13 and see that our father Abraham was what? A keeper of cattle. He said he was very rich in cattle. And we can see that he gave Isaac everything that he had in Genesis 26. So Isaac is a keeper of cattle. So again, we turn back and see how Jabal is the father of those who are keeper of cattle. And then we see our father Abraham kept cattle. Our father Isaac kept cattle. Our father Jacob kept cattle. We're going to even see that when we were in Egypt, we kept cattle, and that our occupation and trade by nature made us abominable in the eyesight of the Egyptians. So it's only right that also we see our forefather Adam kept cattle, and therefore his son Abel kept cattle, and then his son who took his place kept cattle. So it's only going to make sense that Yahusha is a keeper of cattle, or a shepherd of sheep, or a pastor of a flock, and then therefore he sends forth and birth those who do the same. See, a lot of people try to slide themselves in that particular position, not realizing that if you do that, that means you from the stock and bloodline of righteous men. Some people are not from that stock and bloodline of righteous men, and they're trying to dilute the bloodline by trying to interject herself in a place where they don't exist. Because you got to remember what Genesis 3 and 15 say: the serpent seed and the woman's seed are at enmity with one another. And it's always amazing to me how people think that Genesis chapter 3 is literally meaning a natural born seed. It's not talking about a literal natural born seed, because a woman can't have a seed. She can produce the seed, but she doesn't have a seed. But that's what happens when you look at spiritual topics with a natural mindset. You're going to come up with a natural conclusion, which is going to lead you to a literal death. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 1 though.
Don't snatch it, don't hit.
2 Corinthians 5 and 1. He said, for we know that if our earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of Elohim, a house not made with hands, eternal in Shamahim. For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed upon with our house which is from Shamahim. If so be that being clothed, we shall not be found naked. For we that are in this tabernacle do groan, being burdened, not for that we would be unclothed, but clothed upon, that mortality might be swallowed up of life. So when we look at this temporary booth of Jacob building himself a house before he builds one for his cattle, he's trying to construct a place for him to dwell. We have to look at Yahusha has to do the same thing. John chapter 2 verse 17. That's Will. No, they didn't hear the door knock. John 2 and 17. And the disciples remembered that it was written, the zeal of thy house have eaten me up. Then answered the Yahudim and said unto him, what sign show thou unto us that thou do these things? Yahusha answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Then said the Yahudim, 46 years was this temple in building, and how wilt thou rear it up in 3 days? But he spake of the temple of his body. When therefore he was risen from the dead, his disciples remembered that he said unto them, and they believed the scripture and the word that Yahusha said. So now we're looking at how he has built a house for himself. Let's turn around and look at Hebrews 8 and 1 now. Shoot, man, they bring all the niggas out of there and make them sit down. No, it won't be loud if niggas tell them to sit down and be quiet. They are children. Do the children run us or do we run them? I've always believed this here. Children only do what you allow them to do. I bet I can make every last one of them niggas sit down and be quiet. Them niggas won't move. And as long as it's lasting, they know that I will strike every last one of you and thrash you thoroughly. One thing about it with them children though, whether you beat them or not, they have to believe that you're going to beat them. And if they believe you're going to beat them, them niggas will sit still. They too loud for what we got going on. Because their playtime does not override this. What they got going on is irrelevant compared to this work. Grossly irrelevant. I don't care about their fun time. Have fun on your own time. This is your time. It said, now the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. Also, too, on another note, if we want them to actually follow this, then we have to make them take it seriously enough to the point where they feel it's important for them to sit down and listen to it. If we feel like it was important for them to sit down and watch educational shows of a natural nature, then we should instill that same level of discipline with them when it comes to the things that actually pertains greater to the natural things that we want them to watch. But Hebrews 8:1. Now the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have a high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in Shamahim, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle which Yahuwah pitched and not man. So this is how he's turning around and he built this house. Because we see Jacob pitching his house, but now Yahuwah's turning around and pitched the house. And now he's pitching this house for his son to dwell. Yahusha is that temple which he is pitched for us to dwell. Let's look at that in 2 Corinthians chapter 6. 6 and 16. That nigga came in here with a rap. Oh, I don't need no microphone. Who told that I need a microphone? You just felt like rapping. You wanna show yourself you're an MC? That's Sire brought me that. They say, what agreement have the temple of Elohim with idols? For you are the temple of the living Elohim. As Elohim have said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. When Jacob made this house, he also made this house for him and his household to dwell in. Because when we look at Genesis 33, at this time, as he already had his children, he's already had his children, and he's prepared a house for them to dwell in. Let's look at that in Hebrews chapter 3. You see, he got McCracker on the t-shirt. That's the greatest wrestler of all time right there. You see that, Lee? It's the greatest wrestler of all time. Huh?
The Rock's the greatest wrestler of all time.
Absolutely not. I saw him in his prime.
I saw The Rock in his prime.
Yeah, I did too. But Macho Man is better. Macho Man is
Not
better.
American, man.
Okay.
Nah,
Check it out.
Macho Man was better.
This conversation.
Hey, it was a good entertainer. We're not talking about his wrestling ability. We're talking about his entertainment ability. The Rock ain't no joke though. The Rock was a funny nigga, but Macho Man, like, he was on that Raw. That was my cracker right there, boy. Come in. Ooh yeah.
Gay to me.
Mm-hmm.
He's his own.
Yeah, hey, this whole society's gay.
They definitely help aid us.
You know what I'm saying? Some of them boys wasn't with that homo stuff, and some of them got molested.
Rock seemed like he was pretty straight.
Yeah, they might have got him too. He third generation.
But Pink Titans back there,
Shoot, The Rock wore black ones.
black man, fitting of a man.
He said The Rock has been touched. I know what I'm saying. But you know, the wrestlers choose what they wear. And they chose to wear draws. Hebrews 3 and 1.
Mari, take it back in there.
Wherefore, Kadesh brethren, partakers of the calling of Shamahin, consider the apostle and high priest of our profession, Yahusha HaMashiach, who was faithful to him that appointed him, as also Moses was faithful in all his house. For this man was counted worthy of more esteem than Moses, inasmuch as he who hath builded the house have more honor than the house. For every house is builded by some man, but he that built all things is Elohim. Moses truly was faithful in all his house as a servant, for a testimony of those things which are to be spoken after. But Mashiach, a son over his own house, whose house are we, if we hold fast the confidence and the rejoicing of hope firm unto the end. So we look at the key point as he say, he that builded the house have more honor than the house. Jacob is the one who built the house, therefore he had more honor than the house, which is the 12 tribes of Yasharal. We know that Jacob's name was changed to Yasharal already at this point in the 33rd chapter, so it's representative of Mashiach having more honor over the house because he is the one who built it. Let's go back to Genesis 33. And I said that to say this here, that the esteem and honor always needs to be redirected back to Yahusha HaMashiach, which will redirect it back to Yahuwah.
I'm sorry.
Because we always try to seek to direct the righteousness and the esteem unto the law instead of Mashiach, who the Father intended it to go to, because he intended it to go back to him because you believe in on the person whom he sent. Genesis 33 and verse 17. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built him a house and made booths for his cattle. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. And Jacob came to Shalem, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan. So I'm going to let you get the name of the meaning of Shechem. And that is back or shoulder. So Jacob has come to Shalom. He's come to Jerusalem, the city of Shechem, which is say the city of the back or the shoulder, in the land of Canaan. When he came from Padan, and he said he pitched his tent before the city, and he bought a parcel of field where he spread his tent at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. So we have to turn around and look at, how did he purchase this field? How did he purchase Jerusalem? Let's look and see how he purchased Jerusalem. Luke chapter 23. So he said he bought it for 100 pieces of silver, 100 pieces of money. My apologies. Luke chapter 23. Yeah. Luke chapter 23 by verse 26, I suppose. Yeah, it is. Because that's stuff making it hard for them to hear. So they need to sit these niggas down. You know what I'm saying? Because they going too hard.
Christian, leave alone. Time out.
Okay.
23 and 26. And as they led him away, they laid hold upon one Simon and Cyrenian coming out of the country. And on him they laid the stake that he might bear it after Yahusha. And there followed him a great company of people and of women, which also bewailed and lamented him. But Yahusha, turning unto them, said, Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming in which they shall say, Baruch are the barren, and the wombs that never bare, and the paps which never gave suck. Then they shall begin to say, to the mountains fall on us, and to the hills cover us. For if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in a dry? So we sit back and see, in order for him, if Shechem is the place of back and shoulder, and Shechem is the place where the country where Shalom is, or Jerusalem is, we see in order for him to purchase this parcel of land, he has to purchase it by carrying a stake upon his shoulder. Let's look at that again in Luke chapter 14, verse 26. And after that, Philippians chapter 2 and verse 5. Verse 25, Luke 14 to 25. And there went a great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother, wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Whosoever doth not bear his stake and come after me cannot be my disciple. You are not going to be able to even enter in if you're not able to carry that on your back or shoulder as he carried it. And what you carrying is in actuality is the affliction and suffering in the flesh. Paul wrote in another place in Philippians that men are enemies of the stake of Elohim. Men are enemies of the suffering or the self-discipline or the self-sacrifice of the word. Which goes back to what we were talking about earlier when you read 1 Corinthians 13 and it says love don't seek its own. Because if you love according to the word of Elohim, then it's going to be a self-sacrifice. We have been taught in this particular society living here in America not to sacrifice anything, but to always get yours and go for your own, no matter what it would cause to happen to another person. So we haven't learned the concept of Elohim, which is self-sacrifice. We don't want to lose anything. We don't want to relinquish anything. We feel like we're supposed to get everything that we desire and give nothing up. And that is not the way of Yahuwah. That's not how you're going to enter in his sanctuary. It said the way of Elohim is in his sanctuary. If the way of Elohim is in his sanctuary, and in that way, that sanctuary showed you that he offered himself and sacrificed himself and said, greater love have no man in this, that a man lay his life down for his friends, then how is it possible that we can be selfish and be in the way which is in his sanctuary? That would be impossible. That's going to be impossible. That's not possible. Let's look at the next aspect of what we're looking at, and that's 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 17. Matter of fact, make it 1 and 13. Wherefore gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the favor that is brought unto you at the revelation of Yahusha HaMashiach. As obedient children, not fashioning yourselves according to the former lust in your ignorance. So when we sit back and we look at it, before we knew anything about the word, you didn't know about Elohim, and you lived according to those desires. Now when you look, Mike, sit down somewhere and be still. When you learn of Elohim, now you no longer should be fashioning yourself according to when you didn't know any better and those lusts and desires that you had beforehand. See, that'd be our bigger problem when we sit back and we look at dealing in the word, and we try to go back. We try to do like what Lot's wife did. Once you done went in that water, you done said that I have put that old man to rest and I'm living in newness of life. So how am I going to go back and live according to the ignorance that I had before I knew any better? That doesn't make any sense. We all hear people use the term, we may even say it ourselves, when you know better, you do better. But then we learn of Elohim and then we don't do better because we feel like he'll just forgive me for it. Or I'm just flesh. You know what I'm saying? Or even what we were talking about beforehand, the statement that you made. Oh, you know, I just made a mistake. But y'all don't look at sin as a mistake. He don't look at it that way. He look at it as you knew full well what you were doing. Now you have some sins that are done out of ignorance, meaning you did not intentionally and willfully set out to commit this transaction. Case in point, you didn't set out willfully to eat those gummy worms the other day. You know what I'm saying? That was not your intent. I ain't being funny, I'm being dead serious. You know what I'm saying? That was not your intent. Your intent wasn't let me go eat some swine. You know what I'm saying? So if you would have ate that and then it's brought to your knowledge, there's pork in here. That is not a willful or an intentional transgression. I'm just using that because that just happened. You know what I'm saying? Because you did not know, you were ignorant, you were unaware. But like we gave an example, if you go commit fornication, if you go commit adultery, that is a willful sin because that had to already be in your heart before you went and did it. He says, it's not what goes into a man that defiles him, but what comes out. And what comes out the heart of men. He said fornication, adulteries, murders, evil eye, blasphemies. So you already had that in your mind and in your heart before you went and committed it. That's why he say a man is not tempted by Elohim, but a man is tempted and drawn away of his own lust. So it be our own desire. So if we say we know of Elohim, how can we go back to doing what we did before we knew of Elohim? That doesn't make any sense. The only reason why we would do it is because we haven't fully set ourselves in the hope of Elohim, and we still seeking to please ourselves versus pleasing him. This is why this man was, for the lack of a better term to come to my head at this moment, this is why Yahuwah was irate all the time with Yasharal. He was consistently irate because of the stubbornness and hard-heartedness of his people. We refuse to obey. We refuse to listen. Every time he sent his prophets to us, rising up early and sending them, we misused them. We mistreated them. We mocked them. We killed them. We laughed at them. We didn't listen to them because we were not concerned. He say, but as he which, and this is verse 15, but as we have which have called you is Kadesh, so you be Kadesh in all manner of behavior. Because it is written, be ye Kadesh, for I am Kadesh. And that's the biggest thing that we have to remember, is that we need to be set apart. That we need to set ourselves apart as our Elohim is set apart, and not to profane him and not to make ourselves common. Because Yahuwah is not going to make himself common. He only made himself common in one aspect, by sending his son in the likeness of a man, in the likeness of sinful flesh, to condemn sin in the flesh. And then he retrieved back to receive the level of esteem that he had before the foundation of the world. We do not need to be seeking to be common, to be regular. We need to set ourselves apart. Not only in word, but in deed and in truth. He said, if you call on Abba, who without respect of persons judge according to every man's work, pass the time of your sojourning here in fear. For as much as you know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things as silver and gold from your vain behavior received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Mashiach, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. So what caused him to be able to purchase that land, that 100 pieces of money? What caused him to purchase that lamb was the blood of the lamb, when we look at it spiritually. Come on back to let's look at verse 20, and we can see the name of the altar that he placed up in Shalom or in Jerusalem. And the name of that altar is the mighty Elohim of Yasharal. That is the name given to the altar that Jacob set up. So let's look at that again on something that we looked at last night. Let's go back to Isaiah chapter 9. 9 and 6. You need the internet for your phone? I'm talking about for your Bible app. You gotta have internet.
Sit down.
No, I'm asking because which one you got? Oh yeah, because I know I got that oak tree or whatever it's called. I don't need no service to use it. Yes, whatever. What you call this app? Will? Genesis 33 and actually Isaiah 9 and 6. We looked at this last night. Now you see the name of that altar is the mighty Elohim of Yasharal. So then we have to sit back and look at that when Yahusha is on that stake, he become that mighty Elohim. And we see that Isaiah 9 is also another witness to Genesis 33. And this is how he begins to be able to set the process of being a keeper of cattle. He say, for unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given. And the government shall be upon his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty Elohim, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Shalom. What turns around and makes Yahusha the Mighty Elohim? Let's look and see what would be able to give him the Mighty Elohim. Luke chapter 1 and verse 33. Little Mike, sit up.
Sit on your bottom.
And be still. This ain't playtime. Get that little sheepish grin off your face. You look like you're up to no good. You look like you're about to steal some cookies or something. What? Luke 1 and 33. Make that Luke 1 and 30. And the Malachim said unto her, fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with Elohim. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Yahusha. He shall be great. He shall be called the Son of the Highest. And Yahuwah Elohim shall give unto him the throne of his father David. And he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end. Well, we done already kind of did it in reverse when we look at the altar being called the mighty Elohim of Yasharal. But we know in John chapter 17, he say, Father, give me the honor that I had with you before the world was. We know that Yasharal means power to rule as Elohim and with man. That you have power to rule with man and as rule as Elohim. When we look at Yahusha being placed upon that stake, he was able to achieve that power. But also at the same token, if we dwell in him and he dwell in us, we will also have power to rule as Elohim with him, because he'll give you power to judge. He's going to give you that inheritance. He told you, he that overcome, I will give him inheritance, and he shall be my son, and I will be his Elohim. So did not the master say in the 3rd chapter of Revelation that if you overcome the world, that he will sit you in his throne as he sat down in his father's throne? There's absolutely no reward that Yahusha is not going to bestow upon his servants that his father didn't bestow upon him. We actually act to have that hope and desire to receive the same promises that Elohim has bestowed. Let's come back over here and swing, and let's begin the process of looking at a keeper of sheep. Let's look at Ezekiel chapter 34, verse 1. 34 and 1. And the word of Yahuwah came unto me, saying, Son of man, prophecy against the shepherds of Yasharal. Prophecy and say unto them, Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim unto the shepherds. Woe be to the shepherds of Yasharal that do feed themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flocks? You eat the fat, you clothe with the wool, you kill them that are fed, but you feed not the flock. The diseased have you not strengthened, neither have you healed that which was sick, neither have you bound up that which was broken, neither have you brought again that which was driven away, and neither have you sought that which was lost, but with force and with cruelty have you ruled them. Now, let's sit back and look at the force and cruelty part. Let's come over here to look at 1 Peter chapter 5. 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 1. The elders which are among you I exhort, whom also am an elder, and the witness of the sufferings of Mashiach, and a partaker of the esteem that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of Elohim which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, neither as being masters over Elohim's heritage, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive a crown of esteem that fade not away. Let's turn around and look at an example of people ruling over someone ruling over them with cruelty. 1 Kings chapter 12. 1 Kings chapter 12 and verse 3. They that sent and called him, and Jeroboam and all the congregation of Yasharal came and spake unto Rehoboam, saying, Thy father made our yoke grievous. Now therefore make thou the grievous service of thy father and his heavy yoke which he put upon us lighter, and we will serve thee. And he said unto them, Depart yet for 3 days, and then come again to me. And the people departed. And King Rehoboam consulted with the old men that stood before Solomon his father while he yet lived, and said, How do you advise that I may answer this people? And they spake unto him, saying, If thou wilt be a servant unto this people this day, and will serve them and answer them and speak good words to them, then they will be thy servants forever. But he forsook the counsel of the old men which they had given him, and consulted with the young men that were grown up with him, and which stood before him. And he said unto them, What counsel give ye that we may answer this people? Who have spoken to me, make the yoke which thy father did put upon us lighter. The young men that were grown up with him spake unto him, saying, Thou shalt speak unto this people that spake unto thee, saying, Thy father made our yoke heavy, but make it thou lighter unto us. Thus shalt thou say unto them, My little finger shall be thicker than my father's loins. And now whereas my father did lade you with a heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My father have chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. This is another reason why the master said, Come unto me, all ye that my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Because who is Rehoboam's son? Well, who is his son? I mean, who is he the son of, I should say? This is Solomon's son. And Solomon is whose son? This is David's son. So if Solomon, and what did Yah speak of David? He said that he took David from following the sheepcote to set him to feed the people. So that means Rehoboam, for all intents and purposes, is sitting in the position of a shepherd or a pastor, which is where we get this example of not ruling over the people with cruelty, like we read in Ezekiel 34, and like what we read in 1 Peter chapter 5. Let's read that in 1 Peter chapter 5 one more time. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 3. Or verse 2. Feed the flock of Elohim which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly. Not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. Let's look at that word constraint. Let's see what we get from that. That Greek word for constraint is by force. So he's telling you that you should not take. What do you think this mean would be taking the oversight by force? What did anybody think he mean when he said that those who feed the flock of Elohim taking that oversight should not do it by force but willingly? What you think he mean when he say not taking it by force? I know somebody got to have a reasonable idea of what they think he mean by not taking it by force but willingly.
I think about how
He says that the shepherds should not take the oversight of the congregations by force, but it should be willingly. Go ahead, Will. You were gonna say something.
I was thinking about how his son was trying to take the kingdom by force.
Yeah, Absalom tried to take the kingdom by force. Korah tried to take the priesthood from Moses by force. Basically, someone trying to interject themselves in a place where they don't belong, because they trying to seek to gain the esteem and the rule over the people. So he said you shouldn't take it by force. What you got going on? Oh, you got your... Shoot, this is a growing boy. So you had to think about that. So what is he basically saying? Jeremiah chapter 23.
You don't even know about that, man. You don't know about that.
Jeremiah chapter 23 and verse 20.
Y'all, stop.
See how you said that? They don't believe you. You didn't say it. You didn't say it like you meant it. They said, look at you, say, they don't mean it. We're gonna do it again when you turn your head. So we don't believe you. What they were doing? Oh yeah, them niggas like to rob each other. Just like he finna rob you for that plate. Yeah. He already done got you. 23 and 20. The anger of Yahuwah shall not return until he have executed, till he have performed the thoughts of his heart. In the latter days you shall consider it perfectly. I have not sent these prophets, yet they ran. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had stood in my counsel and caused my people to hear my words, then they should have turned them from their evil way and from the evil of their doings. So we see that these prophets are set forth of they've taken this oversight by force. Let's look at another place where it speaks of that. Acts chapter 20, verse 25. We also going to read in another place that the shepherds or the keepers of cattle of Yahuwah wouldn't have no beef with each other.
So let's be safe.
20 and 23. Acts 20 and 23. I'm too high. It ain't gonna hurt nothing. Acts 20 and 23. Say that the Ruach HaKadosh witness in every city, saying that bonds and afflictions abide me. But none of these things move me. Neither count I my life dear unto myself, so that I might finish my course with joy in the ministry which I have received of the Master Yahusha HaMashiach, to testify of the Besorah of favor of Elohim. And again, when you sit back and we look at the gospel of grace or the gospel of favor, the Besorah of favor, this is talking about the good news of the price of death of Yahusha's body. That's the grace. That's the price that's been paid, of which you did nothing to earn. This is why Paul said in Ephesians chapter 2, by grace you are saved. It is the same thing that saved them coming up out of Mizraim. It was by the favor of Elohim that saved them. They did absolutely nothing to be delivered. And now behold, I know that ye all among whom I have gone preaching the kingdom of Elohim shall see my face no more. Wherefore I take you to record this day that I am pure from the blood of all men. For I have not shunned to declare unto you all the counsel of Elohim. Take heed therefore unto yourselves and to all the flock over which the Ruach HaKadosh have made you overseers, to feed the synagogue of Elohim, which ye have purchased with his own blood. For I know this, that after my departing shall grievous wolves enter in among you, sparing not the flock. Also of your own selves shall men arise, speaking perverse things, to draw away disciples after them. So the first thing that we sit back and see is it says that the Ruach HaKadosh has set up overseers, or set up shepherds or pastors to keep cattle. which is taking us back to looking at Adam, taking us back to looking at Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because Yahuwah set all these men up. So it's Elohim that sets up men to watch over the flock. And he told you that men would come, and he said even men who were preachers of the word, even some of those men who were with them, he said they would turn up and try to seek to bring people after them.
All of it. Get it up and put it in the room.
Seeking a desire to have that esteem or to rule the people with cruelty and to rule them with force. What's the next place we're going to go? Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 9. Isaiah 40 and 9.
Take it in the room.
Then we go back to Ezekiel chapter 34. O Zion, that bring good tidings, get thee up into the high mountains. Hey, Henry. O Jerusalem, that bring good tidings. Lift up thy voice with strength, lift it up. Be not afraid. Say unto your cities of Yehuda, behold your Elohim. Behold, Yahuwah Elohim will come with strong hand, and his arm shall rule for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work before him. He shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather the lambs with his arm, and carry them in his bosom, and shall gently lead those that are with young. Now he said he'll feed his flock like a shepherd. We already seen what Peter said, feed the flock of Elohim. We already talked about the other night that he said he'd feed you with the bread of his body or his flesh. So let's look at John chapter 10. And matter of fact, let's not even get to John chapter 10. Let's go back to Ezekiel 34. Ezekiel 34 and 5. He said, and they were scattered because there is no shepherd. And they became meat to all the beasts of the field when they were scattered. My sheep wandered through all the mountains and upon every high hill. Yea, my flock was scattered upon all the face of the Arats. And none did search or seek after them. So let's sit back and see how the sheep were scattered and he had no shepherd. Matthew chapter 9. Matthew chapter 9, verse 34. Matter of fact, make it verse 32. Because I just had this conversation of something that we finna read right here in this chapter 9. And it's going to tie into something that Moses spoke. And as they went out, behold, they brought to him a dumb man possessed with a devil. And when the devil was cast out, the dumb spake. And the multitudes marveled, saying it was never so seen in Yahusha. But the Pharisees said he cast out devils through the prince of the devils. And Yahusha went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. Because remember what we just read in Ezekiel 34, he said they haven't healed the sick, nor strengthened the weak. They haven't done any of these things. But those who are of the father of a keeper of cattle, they're going to go do this. He said they didn't even seek after the cattle. Can anybody think of a man who was sent on a mission to go find some cattle that was lost? Saul went on a mission to go find some cattle that was lost. This is why when you see this here and you see the same thing in Ezekiel 34 and you get the understanding of why Yahusha say he came to seek those that are lost, or he was sent unto the lost sheep of the house of Yahusha. Because he had to go seek out his flock because he's a keeper of sheep. Elohim has sought out each and every last one of you for the purpose of your soul being saved. Now, will you be a rebellious sheep and run from your shepherd? Or will you let his rod and his staff comfort you and follow behind him? What you laughing at?
I knew you were going to say that.
You should have known that what it say though, ain't it? Because what that rod for though? That rod is for correction and direction to keep the sheep going where they supposed to be going. Because the sheep might stray on off and go somewhere he ain't got no business going. Every now and then you got to hit that sheep with the rod, don't you? Every now and then you got to bust him upside his head. Get back in line, boy. Can't spare it. Better go ahead and tap him with it. Go ahead and tap him with it. Get him in line. That's why Paul say, should I come with meekness or should I come with the rod? And when you sit back and look at it, I'm saying this here because a lot of people don't look for the service Elohim to come with the rod. You know what I'm talking about? See, I was having a brother called me earlier, and I cut the conversation real short. He was like, would you let a homosexual in your congregation? I said, what do you mean? Absolutely not. But the point of what the brother was saying was, would you allow a homosexual to come in and hear the word? Absolutely. How else is he going to be converted? You know what I'm saying? He can't be converted if he don't hear the word. But you can't come in and be a member of his body and get immersed and you still taking it in the butt. You know what I'm saying? You around here got a strap on because you clearly have a mental problem. Clearly you are confused. I can't see anybody being in the word and then turn around and become a sodomite though. I don't even know how that happened.
You always been.
Yeah, you always were. But the point of what the brother was saying, which I didn't dispute, and that's why I said, clearly you weren't listening to this man before you called me with this. Because he say, man, what does 1 Corinthians 6 say? Some of you were abusers of yourselves with mankind. Some of you were fornicators. Some were idolaters and thieves. He say, such were some of you. But now you are clean. Now you are washed by the name of Elohim. That means they used to be like that. The only way that they can be strengthened and be healed from their disease is they got to hear the word. He talking about what if he came in there with his boyfriend? Well, clearly they trying to stop being sodomized. Because why else would they be here?
That is no fun place for sodomite.
That's not a fun place for a sodomite. That's not a fun place for a whoremonger. That's not a fun place for a fornicator. You know what I'm saying? Not if you coming to hear the word in order to be saved. Now, if you coming to and sing along and dance along, then yeah, you coming in here to play. You know what I'm saying? But if you come in here to be saved, that means you came with the intent on changing. I would hope.
At least get some motivation.
What? I would hope. What you here for? From some camaraderie? That what nigga problem is. You ain't supposed to be sitting there. The fellowship is good, but that ain't what you here for. You ain't here for camaraderie. You know what I'm talking about? Well, you here to save your soul. You know what I'm talking about? The same token like we sitting around here eating. You know what Paul said? That nigga say, well, you can eat and drink at the house. You know what I'm talking about? He said, what you here for? You have to always remember, what are you doing it for? Because I know some people pick up this book to get a mate, to get a husband. We see it all the time. Get a wife. Some people pick up this book to get friends. Some people pick up this book to get esteem. But like I told that nigga when he called me earlier, nigga, I didn't pick this book up to go to hell. You know what I'm saying? How am you going to put your life on the line? Like I put my life on the line running around in these streets throwing rocks at the chain gang, and then you're going to pick up the book and throw rocks at the lake of fire? You're going to play with that? That don't even make any sense. He was like, bro, you know, he said there ain't no will for sin after you've been immersed. I said, it didn't say when you were immersed. It said after you done received the knowledge of the truth. So if you done received the knowledge of the faith, then you're not going to turn around and do certain things. It's just not going to happen. And if you do it, you putting your soul at risk. It's a very, very dangerous thing to do. I wouldn't advise anybody to do it. Verse 36, but when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them because they fainted and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. Then he saith unto his disciples, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the master of the harvest that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. You know, most of the time when we pray, that's what we ask him to do, is to send forth laborers into this harvest. There is no one man that can maintain and be able to talk about he got the word and everybody got to come to him. It's too many people out here. That's too many people for one man to maintain. You supposed to be praying and hoping that this man send men out here to watch over his flock, that his flock be spared. But unfortunately, many men want to be able to do it all dolo to themselves because they really, just like what we read in Acts chapter 20, they seeking to arise to have men follow after them and not follow after Yahuwah. Their concern is with themselves and not with the people. Let's go back to Ezekiel chapter 34. Verse 7 of Ezekiel 34. He said, therefore hear ye shepherds, and therefore ye shepherds, hear the word of Yahuwah. As I live, saith Yahuwah Elohim, surely because my flock became a prey, and my flock became meat to every beast of the field, because there was no shepherd, neither did my shepherds search for my flock. But the shepherds fed themselves and fed not my flock. Therefore, O ye shepherds, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, behold, I am against the shepherds, and I will require my flock at their hand, and cause them to cease from feeding the flock. Neither shall the shepherds feed themselves any more, for I will deliver my flock from their mouth, that they may not be meat for them. Let's look at 2 Peter chapter 2, and let's see an example of what Yahuwah speaks of here. Because these people seeking to feed themselves. It's the same thing with the scribes. He sat back and said the things that they did. Or he said how wicked men creep into silly women's houses who are laden with sins and diverse lusts, and draw them away to destroy them. Devouring widows' houses. I heard a brother talking about this earlier today, and this is real talk. You got a lot of Hebrew dudes, they come in the word, and they decide to start a camp or a congregation so they can say, I can marry this many women or one woman, and then have this woman take care of him while he say he just preached the word and he don't take care of her. You know what I'm saying? And it's rampant too, where dudes is comfortable with that. And they say, I'm doing the work of the Lord. I'm doing the work of Yah. I got to do this and do that. And you got to do this. I know dudes that say they got 3-4 wives, and all their wives make money to take care of him. Because he say he doing the work of the Lord. He ain't got time to work. And this is what he talking about. Ruling these women with cruelty, feeding himself and not feeding the flock, which goes back to what we were talking about in 1 Corinthians 13. Love seeks not her own. I did not come to serve, to be served. I came to serve. Ain't no way in the world you say you a shepherd and you serving yourself of your wives versus you serving your wife. Because you know you're going to exploit the people in the same fashion. 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 1. But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the master that bought them, and bringing upon them swift destruction. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of, and through covenant shall they with vain words make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time linger not, and their damnation slumber not. So these false shepherds who set themselves up to show themselves that they're not the father of him that keep cattle are going to sit back and try to make merchandise of the people, of which we see him speaking of in Ezekiel 34, of which we see the scribes and Pharisees doing to the people in the same token. Come on back to Ezekiel chapter 34. I got too much to deal with in this particular topic, and I do not think we're going to get all of it. Ezekiel 34 and 11. For thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, behold, I, even I, will both search my sheep and seek them out. As a shepherd seek out his flock in the day that he is among his sheep that are scattered, so will I seek out my sheep and deliver them out of all the places where they have been scattered in the cloudy and dark day. And I will bring them out from the people and gather them from the countries and bring them into their own land and feed them upon the mountains of Yasharal by the rivers and in the inhabited places of the country. And I will feed them in a good pasture. Upon the high mountains of Yasharal shall their fold be. There shall they lie in a good fold, and in a fat pasture they shall feed upon the mountains of Yasharal. And I will feed my flock, and I will cause them to lie down, saith Yahuwah Elohim. And I will seek that which was lost, and bring again that which was driven away, and bind up that which was broken, and strengthen that which was sick. And I will destroy the fat and strong, and I will feed them with judgment. So let's turn around and look at him talking about feeding his flock. But not only that, that's enough. That is enough. Luke chapter 15. And then after that, Matthew chapter 15. Then drew near unto him all the publicans and sinners, for to hear him. The Pharisees and scribes murmured, saying, This man receives sinners and eat with them. And he spake this parable unto them, saying, What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he lose one of them, doth not leave the 99 in the wilderness, and go after that which is lost until he find it? And when he have found it, he lay it on his shoulders, rejoicing. Again, that take us back to Sichem, which means back or shoulder, which was the place where Shalom was, or Jerusalem was, the city that he purchased for 100 pieces of money. Or the fact that he carried us on his back or on his shoulder, representative of that state, so he could purchase you, so he could seek you out and find you and create booths for all of his cattle, or a dwelling place for those whom he watch over. So we have to be able to look at and understand that what this man is doing to watch over his sheep. Because he said he was amongst his sheep as they were scattered. And you notice we read that in Matthew 9. He say he seen them as sheep scattered who had no shepherd. He was amongst his people. Who was scattering his people? It was the scribes and the Pharisees that were scattering the people at that time, because they were seeking to get gain off the people. This is why towards the end, right before he got killed, what did he say? He spoke destruction to these men. Because he say you're full of hypocrisy and dead men's bones. You know what I'm talking about? You do this, you do that, you do this. You're scattering the flock. This is why Paul gave that warning. He said the Ruach HaKadosh has set y'all up to be keepers of cattle. Because he's the father of those that keep cattle. But it's going to be men that's going to come up to try to scatter that cattle. Because they want to rule over the cattle. And they want to be seen as this great person. Because they don't care for the flock. You put it this way, right? And we're going to read it. Y'all know what John chapter 10 say. He said you got the good shepherd and then you got hirelings. And the hirelings don't care for the flock. Because the hirelings only care about what they can benefit and what they can profit. And if they can't get anything from it, then they don't have any desire to do it. That's why Peter said they would make merchandise out of you. The biggest way where a lot of these shepherds are making merchandise out of people is sleeping with multiple women or using the word to get a woman. Not using the word as a means to show this woman that he's an upright man whom she should trust to lead her and direct her in righteousness, but he feel like he can impress her with some knowledge of the word so he can get in between her knees. And many wicked women and naive women fall for that. Nevertheless, Matthew chapter 15. And then after that, matter of fact, make it Psalms 119 and 176. Psalms 119 and 176. All right, Lizzie. Make it 173. Also, we're going to see also, too, another word, that same word that's used for pastor is also used for feed. The same word, that word is Raj, Shayla. The same word that the word Raj used for pastor. And that was the same word that we seen for keeper of sheep with Abel. When they say he's a keeper of sheep, mean that he was a pastor of sheep or a keeper of a flock. That same word is also used for feed in Hebrew as well. So keep that in mind as well. Psalms 119 and 173. Let thy hand help me, for I have chosen thy precepts. I have longed for thy salvation, O Yahuwah, and thy Torah is my delight. Let my soul live, and it shall praise thee, and let thy judgments help me. For I have gone astray like a lost sheep. Seek thy servant, for I do not forget thy commandments. Let's look at the word for seek here. That word for seek in Psalms 119, 176 is that same word that we dealt with. I already knew it, but I had to confirm. Which is the Bakash. When we were talking about seek Yahuwah, which is what? The sacrificing to get in the house. We seen that Yahusha sacrificed himself for you to get in the house. So that's what he was doing when he sought his sheep. Which goes back to what we were looking at with Jacob building the house. And we seen when it said that Yahusha built the house. and that he had more honor in the house is that he was the one who created it. If we remember and recall back to our remembrance, when we look at Jacob being named Yasharal, it was representative of Yahusha overcoming death. When he wrestled with Amalekim, he wrestled with death and overcome it. Therefore, that caused his name to be changed, which takes us right back to the name of that altar that he created in Jerusalem, and Genesis 33 being the mighty Elohim of Yasharal, because Yahusha became that when he sought us or sacrificed himself so that we can enter into that house, showing again how he is the dweller, the father of those who dwell in tents, and also the father of those that keep cattle. Because in order for him to keep this cattle, to seek out his flock which was lost, he had to offer himself. This is the part that we missing when we trying to put all this stuff together, to understand that this is the gospel of peace. This is the gospel of favor. It is the sacrifice of a man who did not have to sacrifice himself. Let's look at that in Romans 5, since I mentioned that before we continue. Because if we actually consider the level of this man's sacrifice, our level of faith should be stronger and our behavior should be better.
Get out of there.
Romans 5 and 6. For when we were yet without strength in due time, I ain't got time to play, man. It's not playtime.
Come on, we all right, put
Yeah, you come over here trying to
to
poking your lips out here like you trying to give me a kiss. Go sit down. Go sit down. Yeah, you did. You did this one here. That's what he did. You ain't see him, did he?
I ain't seen it.
He did it too.
Did not.
He did. We gonna run the tape back. My statement stands. You seen his lip?
Little tight lip.
Little tight lip.
I don't know about smooch though, but lips was tight.
One too tight. I don't know if we call it chewing. I think we can run back the tape. And the replay gonna show that there's a flag on the plate. It was.
She thought I said,
It was.
put it down.
That don't mean you come over here and do it.
Gave it to the wrong person. You got
What?
I thought he said potty.
Man, go sit down.
Oh, I thought he said potty too. He said he want to bite. He said, for when we were yet without strength in due time, Mashiach died for the ungodly. For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet peradventure for a good man some would even dare to die. You know what I'm saying? You got to sit back and look at that, because ain't there one of you niggas gonna die for nobody. Not especially nobody who contrary to you. Let's look at that. 1 Peter 3 and 19.
Rabbit.
3 and 18, my apologies. Make it 17. For it is better if the will of Elohim be so that ye suffer for well doing than for evil doing. For Mashiach also suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, that he may bring us to Elohim, being put to death in the flesh, but quickened by the Ruach. So you got to sit back and look at that. He's telling you that he's seeking out the sheep because you lost to bring you closer to Elohim. And he did that because he sought you out, because he was willing to sacrifice himself so you could get in the house. And that's what we have to consider. We talked about that when we were talking about seeking Elohim. There has to be a sacrifice or a destruction that is needed. If we're not willing to sacrifice ourselves, are we really seeking after Elohim, or are we just paying it lip service? Let's go back to Matthew chapter 15 and verse 20. Because what we talking about with this man doing is self-sacrifice. It's a service. He was manifesting love. He put the people before he put himself there. 15 to 20. 21, I should say. Matthew 15 to 21. And then after that, 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 20. Then Yahusha went thence and departed into the coast of Tyre and Zidon. And behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, have mercy on me,
Go sit down.
O master, thou son of David, my daughter is grievously vexed with the devil. But he answered her not a word, and his disciples came and besought him, saying, Send her away, for she cry after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Yasharal. Now we know Yasharal was scattered everywhere. And he said it was his job to seek them out. Is that Matthew chapter 9 I desire? Again? Or is it Luke chapter 9?
Okay.
Let's go to Matthew chapter 9 and verse 9. And as Yahusha passed from thence, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the receipt of custom. And he saith unto him, Follow me. And he arose and followed him. And it came to pass, as Yahusha sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, Why eat your master with publicans and sinners? But when Yahusha heard that, he said unto them, They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. Again, tying it back to what he said that he would do as a shepherd, which was heal the sick. The sickness is sin. The healing is the word. The healing is his blood. The healing is his sacrifice. But go ye and learn what that mean, and I will have mercy and that sacrifice, for I am not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. And another place he just put it out, he said he didn't come to seek the righteous, but to save sinners. So his purpose is to seek out those who need to be delivered from their transgressions and sins, so that you can take up your stake and follow him and sacrifice yourself as he did. Because to seek out his lost sheep, he had to sacrifice himself. That's how he found you. He couldn't find you in no other way. See, we just looking at finding you is, oh, he just came out here and said, here, come hear this word. He did that, but he actually sought you out by sacrificing himself. So, because he said, seek thy servant so I don't forget your commandments. So sacrifice yourself so I can remember the word, which takes us back to the new covenant, which is the law written in your heart and in your inward parts, and he'll remember your sins no more. This is how he sought out his sheep. And let's see if Peter back us up with that in 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 20. 1 Peter 2 and 21 actually. Screw it. 1 Peter 2 and 19. For this is thankworthy if a man for conscience towards Elohim endure grief suffering wrongfully. For what esteem is it when you be buffeted for your faults, you shall take it patiently. But if when you do well and suffer for it, you take it patiently, this is acceptable with Elohim. For even hereunto were you called, because Mashiach also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps, who did no sin. Neither was guile found in his mouth, who when he was reviled not again, and when he suffered he threatened not, but committed himself to him that judged righteously, who in his own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree, that we being dead to sin should live unto righteousness, by whose stripes ye were healed. For you were as sheep going astray, but are now returned unto the shepherd and bishop of your souls. So we see that when he telling you what returns you was his sacrifice, was it not? Is that what Peter telling you? This is the same thing Psalms 119 is telling you. This is the same thing that he's saying in Ezekiel that a shepherd is supposed to do. We go back to why Peter said that you shouldn't take the oversight by constraint or by force. Because like I said, that's what Korah did. Korah tried to rise up an uprising to take the office of a shepherd or a pastor by force from Moses. He didn't take it willingly. He didn't do it willingly. That's why Paul say, if I preach the gospel, I do this thing willingly. When you turn around and you look at most of the men in the word who Yah sent, they did it willingly. They didn't have to take it by force because Yah sent them to go do it. Therefore, they didn't have a need to try to fight and keep a position or things of this nature. Because if the work be of Elohim, then no man can stop it. But if it be a man, it's going to be brought to nothing. And like I say, and because we live in America, and we look at a lot of people when it comes to congregations, it's always large numbers of people. But what did the master say about in the parable of the talents? You know what I'm saying? He said he gave a man one. He gave a man this amount. He said if you've been faithful in little, you'll be faithful with a lot. You know what I'm saying? So because you live in America, I'm just being honest though. That's how niggas judge it in America though, don't they?
I don't think mine.
When the dudes say we growing, we drawing them in.
You faithful with your one talent, he'll give you more talent.
And you know what I'm saying?
Then you can do a bunch of different abilities.
And that ain't even talking about that. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing though. They ain't even talking about that. But when you hear people talking about, oh, it's we got 5,000 people, we got 10,000 people, and that's what people judge as this is successful that Elohim is with us. When he could be drawing all those people to this person for their death. Because we can see that in the word about certain men who rose up and drew many people after them, and then y'all scattered all them people and killed that man. And some of them he let them live all the way to the bus out.
With their numbers.
With their numbers. So I'm just stating that to say this. Don't never judge it based on how many people are following a particular individual or listening to a particular individual. That doesn't denote if the Ruach HaKodesh set them up to do it. That doesn't denote that. We shouldn't look at that in such a carnal way, because that's truly a level of spiritual immaturity to judge it based off of that. Because if we was to judge it based off of that, we actually look through the account of the Acts of the Apostles. Most of them were doing what we doing right now. You know what I'm saying? Now there were synagogues set up in a lot of the cities that they were in, but most of these people, they went to house preaching the word. That's what they did. If you actually read Acts, I know you've been reading Acts, so I already know you know that from just recently looking at it. No, she's been reading Acts a lot. Because where was Paul preaching at? It said Paul got a hired house for that specific purpose. Told people to come to his house so he could preach Yahusha to them. How you think that dude fell off the roof? They wasn't in no temple when Cub fell off the roof. It was at somebody's house. And everybody had flocked to this person's house. And this man is up there on the roof listening and got so tired because Paul was in there long preaching, he fell off the roof. And it seems like back then, them people had a much longer attention span than we did, that we do now, because these people sat down for 8, 10, 12, 14 hours listening to somebody preach the word. Shoot, not all of them were wicked.
Most of us is not.
Now, I would say when the apostle was moving around, some of them had never heard it before. So that's why most of them was sitting there trying to hear what they talking about.
That's if they want to do it or not.
You know what I'm saying? But it even at that, who is this Yahusha whom you speak of? I've never heard of this man.
Think about it, all the niggas who ever came through.
But I'm talking about you got to realize the apostles going from city to city. So when they going up in these cities,
It'd be even more. You just preaching in the village.
because you know what I'm saying? Exactly. Because if they going from city to city, these people ain't never heard of this man. So you come. That's why he's saying, "Oh, you say the resurrection of the dead ain't real." Like, what are you talking about? We never heard this before. You know what I'm talking about? Now, and it's no different now. See, now people think they done heard of Yahusha based on whatever experiences that they done had. Not realizing we still in the exact same time that in the time of Acts of the Apostles, that people got to really go from city to city to preach this man because they have no idea who this is. I think we finished with 1 Peter chapter 2. Back to Ezekiel 34.
Mari. Go sit down.
Ezekiel chapter 34, we in verse 17. Verse 17, Ezekiel 34 and 17. And as for you, O my flock, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, behold, I will judge between cattle and cattle, and between the rams and the he-goats. What y'all think this mean when he say he gonna judge between the rams and the he-goats? Well, let's look at it. Matthew 25.
Go back and sit where you were sitting at. Go sit down.
25 and 32.
Come out your mouth and go sit down.
Matthew 25 and 31. Let this weigh in your mind and consider. Because we kind of talked about this here the first night of the feast. Because it's a lot more people going to go to hell than it is going to be saved. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot more people gonna go to hell, and you should know that for one reason and one reason alone. It was a lot more people who died in the wilderness than who got in that land. A lot more left and died in that wilderness than got in that land. Y'all remember the story of Gideon? See, we were climbing about this here the other day when we were walking past that water fountain. I don't even see how a nigga bend down and drink no water lapping like no dog. You would think you would stick your hands up under the water so you could touch it, maybe splash a little bit in your face, wake yourself up. You know what I'm talking about? Nigga around here like it like
Been out there walking in that desert, that wilderness of Judah.
you know what I'm saying? And you around here trying to like here lap it up like that's a old fur burger. Nasty bastard. Go and put your hands under there and go ahead and take your drink. You ain't never heard of that before, have you? Yeah, that's what nigga on. Matthew 25 and 31. When the Son of Man shall come in his esteem, and all the Kadesh Malachim with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his esteem, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divided sheep from the goats. Pause. What can we look at in the law? Somebody divided they sheep from somebody else, or cattle from somebody else. Jacob did it. And what was the difference when we look at Laban? What was Laban? He was a very wicked man based on his actions. Because what based off his actions, what would be a good word to describe him? What adjective could we use? He was a deceiver. And what does the master say in John 8 and 44 about the devil? That he was what? A deceiver. And then those that are of Laban's cattle, they got to stay with him because they were deceivers. Those that went with Jacob showed themselves to be righteous, so to speak. Because we don't have time to go through Genesis chapter 30 to line that all the way out. But it's also taking us back to him building it. Because if he's coming in his esteem, he's already built the house, correct? Because he done been resurrected from the dead. So then he's going to sit back and tell you how he built the house for his cattle. Let's see him say that. Let's see if he say that. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divided sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, and the goats on the left. Then shall the Malach say unto them on the right hand, Come ye bereaved of my Abba, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For when I was hungered, you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me.
You better hush while pop it again.
Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Master, when saw we thee a hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the Malach shall answer and say unto them, Truly I say unto you, inasmuch as you done it unto me, done it unto one of these, the least of my brethren, you have done it unto me. Now, just so we can be clear, because me and you already had it. If he said you did it unto the least of these, my brethren, who is he talking about? Who is he talking about if he said you did this to the least of my brethren? Who is he talking about? Is he talking about all men, or is he talking about a specific group of people? Well, who is that specific group of people he speaks of? Not the disciples, because he said that this is for everybody who's entering into the kingdom. Because it said the righteous will say, when have we saw you hungry? When have we seen you naked? When did we visit you in prison? Who is he speaking of? When he told you in Hebrews chapter 2 verse 11, by the hand of an apostle, that he that sanctified and he that sanctified all are one, for which cause he's not ashamed to call them brethren. And the master said, who is my brother, and who is my sister, and who is my mother, but he that do the will of Elohim? Then he is talking about those who actually serve Elohim. When you actually look in the text, and I told y'all this the other day, like the book say, if you feed the poor, you actually give it to your maker. That's what he said. But when he was referring to that, he was referring to people in the word first. Is it wrong to feed a homeless person who's not in the word, or to look out for somebody who's not in the word in these capacities which he speaks of? Absolutely not. But you haven't done it to Yahusha, because he does not consider them to be brethren. So if we was to go do a prison ministry, we haven't visited Yahusha in prison, because none of those people are his brethren. because none of them are doing the will of Elohim. That's not to say that they couldn't do the will of Elohim upon hearing the word, but in actuality, at that particular point in time, that is not an accurate statement.
You don't think niggas in the pen with no word?
I mean, them niggas on Yahweh ben Yahweh type stuff or the General One West stuff.
You don't feel like there's no nigga like put no word on?
Not while they in there. Not you been in here doing. You got to have that before you got there, and you would have to been jailed unjustly.
You might have gave it to him while they was in there.
Absolutely not. That's going to go completely contradictory to how he operates. You know what I'm saying? You can't be around here a wicked sinner, then all of a sudden get an epiphany and he just drops some word on you.
I'm saying you might have a light or something. He's in there to preach to the niggas that come through. He ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, no, it don't work like that. You had to get the preach to them niggas that's in there. Like Peter got jammed. Like Paul got jammed.
Yeah.
Like Micah got jammed. They were righteous and they got jammed unjustly. Not I murdered a nigga and now all of a sudden I wake up and he don't give me some
A
word.
lot of unjust black males in the pen.
Okay, and they gonna have to get that word by somebody he done sent through there to get to him. Not a nigga who been doing evil and doing a bid with him.
Yeah.
I mean, dudes thinking that nigga just wake up one day, he give him the word after they been down 10 years.
I'm saying unjustly, you could. If you been down unjustly.
Yeah, but you would already have it before you got there. Because you would have already been instructed before you got there. If you sitting in the penitentiary with a whole bunch of wicked niggas, who instructed you on it for you to get to him?
I'm saying he might be an apostle.
You know what I'm talking about?
Who instructed you?
Yeah, but get what? He ain't send a nigga to jail and make you that.
I ain't say, it ain't about being in jail.
No, I'm with you.
Innocent.
But see, but
you innocent.
okay, but you innocent, but you would have to already have it before you got there. I'm talking about according to pattern of what's written. Every man who is in this book, whoever got jailed, they already had the word before they got jailed. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't in jail like Joseph had the word before he got jailed. You know what I'm saying? So you would go through that, but going through that, hitting them off, does not make them his brethren.
No, I want to
before, no, I'm talking about before they converted.
Yeah.
You visiting somebody, you visiting a sick person at the hospital or the nursing home. It's not you doing that to Mashiach because that's not his brother, that's not his sister. They're not doing the will of Elohim unless they are. If you actually read the Acts of the Apostles, they were actually doing this with other believers. They were seeking out the poor of other believers in other cities. That's why Paul say, I robbed other churches of wages to give it to you. So we had to sit back and look at it and be specific and have understanding and know who he's talking about, who he's doing these things to. That's one of the reasons why he know we try to get up with other brews, you know what I'm saying? But most brews would prefer to be insulated and only deal with the people that they deal with, you know what I'm saying? They don't really want to deal with nobody in an extended period of time that's not rolling with them because for some whatever reason niggas think you're going to try to come take over their congregation. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to take over your congregation. Nobody wants to siphon people from your congregation. We just want to let you know, hey, boy, we out here, and hey, you need us or we need you. We know we can holler at you and make that happen. That's what those people were doing during the time of the apostles. A congregation in Ephesians was not worried about no congregation in Cappadocia or Galatia overtaking them. You know what I'm saying? And we don't think like that now because niggas thinking about themselves and what they trying to do.
It was probably camps and stuff back then.
Yeah, I mean, they just ain't called it no camp. Of course it was. It was synagogues and assemblies all across Asia Minor. And they were all trying to work to move to be down with each other. You know what I'm saying? Not, I don't want to talk to them brothers in Corinth.
That's the apostles, though.
Indeed. But the reason why it's not like that now is because what we read in Ezekiel 34. The shepherds are only thinking about themselves. And because they're only thinking about themselves, it causes groups to be closed off. Just because I don't fellowship with you don't mean I wouldn't fool with you. You know what I'm saying? Or kick it with you. What does it matter? You know what I'm talking about? You doing what you do over here, we doing what we do over here. But we are the same body and the same family. You know what I'm saying? That's why I tell you that we should never be hesitant to want to go holler at somebody who say they believe the same thing that you do. Because you may not never know if you may need them in a time of distress and they see you and say, I know that's a believer of Elohim right there. That's my brother, that's my sister. We don't have that same mind frame because we get locked in on, I'm a part of this group. So I'm only going to deal with these people in this group. And we run across that. You know that when we went out there and hollered, them dudes wasn't really trying to talk to us like that. You know what I'm saying? And we weren't trying to have no doctrinal conversation. We were really we're not trying to get in on that lane with y'all. You know what I'm saying? We're just trying to kick it with you Just on the regular in general, because we know for certain extensions y'all don't necessarily believe all the things that we believe or follow all the things that we follow, but we didn't come out here for that. And you can see every time somebody was trying to steer the conversation toward that direction. You know what I'm saying? Nobody trying to go through that with y'all, man. I think we did a good job avoiding them on that, because they sure tried to bring it in too. But we're not going to call anybody names. We're not going to do this. Man, come on, my nigga, go ahead on all with all that. You know what I'm saying? But the minute a nigga come up with a teaching that y'all don't agree with, they gonna be whatever you want them to be. I ain't trying to hear all that. Matthew 25 and 41. Then shall he say unto them on the left hand, depart from me, ye cursed, in the everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. So you see how he's separating the rams from the he-goats, because a ram ain't nothing but another sheep. I'll come back to Ezekiel 34. Some of y'all might not know that, but I'm real big on that. I have no problem with that. We can go kick it with any congregation, anywhere, sit down and build with you. It's not a big deal. Who? Bet you lied. You know I keep that stuff to myself. You know I keep all my dope in my sock. Keep my shoes on. Keep my dope in my sock. I ain't trying to sell no dope. This your block. You know what I'm saying? We ain't short stopping, baby. I ain't trying to get on your block and post up. This your block, baby. Pitch. Unless you lying, then I'ma leave. You know what I'm talking about? I ain't finna come in here and talk about this man is lying and try to take it over. I'm finna dip. You know what I'm talking about? I'm not finna sit here and listen to this. Where we at? Verse 18. Say, seem it a small thing unto you to have eaten up the good pasture, but you tread down with your feet the residue of your pastures, and to have drunk of the deep waters, but you must foul the residue with your feet. And as for my flock, they eat that which you have trodden with your feet, and they drink that which you have fouled with your feet. Therefore, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim unto them, behold, I, even I, will judge between the fat and the cattle, and between the lean cattle. Because you have thrust with side and with shoulder, and pushed all the disease with your horns, till you have scattered them abroad. Therefore will I save my flock, and they shall no more be a prey, and I will judge between cattle and cattle, and I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them. And that same word for feed is ra'ah, which is the same word for pastor. And we're going to sit back and see what the master told Peter to do that same thing. And he shall be their shepherd, and I, Yahuwah, will be their Elohim, and my servant David, a prince among them. I, Yahuwah, have spoken it. And at the end of this chapter, he tells you how the people of his flock are men. And that goes back to what you read in Psalms 95 or Hebrews 3, where he say, you know, we are the sheep of his pasture. Today, if you hear his voice, harden not your hearts. He said he sent unto you bishops and apostles and prophets and evangelists for the purpose of edifying the body or feeding the people. What's the other thing I need out of here, man? Because we finna wind this on down. I gotta hit one thing though. Go to Genesis chapter 46. Genesis 46 and 30. After Genesis, matter of fact, no, go to Micah 7 and 11. Micah 7 and 11. Micah 7 and 9, actually. I will bear the indignation of Yahuwah because I have sinned against him, until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. Then she that is my enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her. Which said unto me, where is Yahuwah thy Elohim? My eyes shall behold her, now she shall be trodden down as the mire of the streets. And the day that thy walls are to be built, and the day that shall decree be far removed. And that day also he shall come even to thee from Assyria, from the fortified cities, and from the fortress, even to the river, and from the sea, and from the mountain. Notwithstanding, the land shall be desolate because of them that dwell therein, for the fruit of their doings. Feed thy people with thy rod, the flock of thy heritage, which dwell solitary in the wood, in the midst of Carmel, and let them feed in Bashan and Gilead as the days of old. So notice when he sit back, he say, feed the people with your rod. He's speaking of feeding the people with discipline and correction. See, I'm be honest with you. These people do not like discipline and correction. Never liked it. Never cared for it. And that's why we in the state that we in right now. That's why we mentioned earlier. We stiff-necked and stubborn and rebellious. We hate to listen. We hate to obey. And that's why we sitting in Jacksonville, Florida, instead in the land of Yasharal. We don't hear the word. This is what he said in Jeremiah. He said, this people have an uncircumcised ear. They don't have a delight in the word. Everything that we look at with you, truth be told, we look at it as a burden. Because we feel like it's stopping everything that we want to do. Because we feel like it's other things that we could be doing. And that's why we in the constant state. When we sit back and look at it, we in the Feast of Weeks, Booths right now. Feast of Tabernacles. Which is dealing with dwelling in Yahusha. And we have to all ask ourselves one simple, solitary question. If you was to die right now, what is your judgment going to be when you wake up? And if you know your judgment is not going to be this man, your name is in the Lamb's Book of Life, then you have to sit back and consider, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing, and is your faith where it's supposed to be at? Because if you know your life is in danger, how could you feel comfortable? Because I don't think a nigga who's selling dope is comfortable with knowing he could go to prison any and every day. He going to be finding a way with what he got to do to try to eliminate that if he's tired of living that way. So if we feel like, I know I could die and go to hell, how are we comfortable? If this man were to bust the skies open tonight, are you ready for him? Because he coming to build a house for his cattle. In his father's house, there's many mansions. He's coming to put a place for his cattle to dwell. He done already built a house for them. Now he built a house for himself. Now he want to build a place for his cattle. Is there a place for you there? Or is it just irrelevant? Because how would any of y'all feel if you done sat back and did this for a number amount of time and then you find yourself in hell? And you're going to know why you were there. When you could have been more diligent and more firm and more steadfast and locked in to make sure that didn't happen. Because I could say over the course of 8 years, because I was just telling the dude this, and he was like, man, people sin after getting baptized all the time. All the time. That's another place where he said we have to take more earnest heed to the things that we heard, lest they slip. Because this is the most serious thing that we're ever endowed and encountered in our life. Because one day, every last one of us going to have to stand before the judgment seat of Mashiach to answer for these things that you've done in this body, whether they be good or whether they be evil. And do you want to be found of him in shalom, or do you want to be found of him in his wrath? And that's on you. We already dealt with that recently with Hebrew chapter 12 with the chastisement, and that if you're not a partaker of the chastisement, you are a bastard. This is what he's talking about feed your flock, feed your people with the rod, the flock of thy heritage, or the flock of your inheritance, the flock of your power. We say feed them with the rod, with correction. That's the most important thing. Nevertheless, Genesis 46.
That was close.
Huh?
That was close.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought I could get all this in there. After Genesis 46, Jeremiah 31. I had way too much for this. Niggas ain't paying attention to no one. Don't really make no difference. What is Genesis 46 and 34? Make it about 30 though. Genesis 46 and 30. Hold on, there was something else I was going to say. Yeah, 46 and 30 is good. Matter of fact, 46 and 28. And he sent Yehuda before him unto Joseph to direct his face unto Goshen, and they came into the land of Goshen. Yosef made ready his chariot and went up to meet Yasharal his father to Goshen, and presented himself unto him, and fell on his neck, and wept on his neck a good while. And Yasharal said unto Yosef, Now let me die, since I have seen thy face, because thou art yet alive. And Yosef said unto his brethren in his father's house, I will go up and show Pharaoh, and say unto him, My brethren in my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade have been to feed cattle. Now let's sit back and look at that. He said their trade is to feed cattle. And they have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. When we look at their trade has been to feed cattle, that word is miknan. It's just simple cattle or purchase. The word also means in general the purchase of a general animal. And you know that take it back to again with Hamashiach purchasing us with his blood. Say their trade was to feed cattle. This is their occupation. That's why I take it back to what Paul say, that our vocation, your trade, your occupation, and that a steward must be found faithful. So you looking at that, he said these shepherds' job was to feed the people the word. That was their job, which takes you back to the Levites. That's what their job. Their job was to watch over the people and feed them, but instead they were scattering them. And he said, It shall come to pass when Pharaoh shall say unto you, and shall say, What is your occupation? Let's look at that Hebrew word for occupation. And that's just deed work. It's ma'asah. So then what he says, Then shall thy servants say, Thy trade hath been about cattle from our youth even unto now, both we and also our fathers, that you may dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. Now hold on. And that word for shepherd is ra'ah. It's the same word, but that word for trade is enosh, and that is a man or a mortal man. So we say that servants have been men who've been about cattle, which takes us back to what did the master say? I'm about my father's business. Ain't that what he said? And that's what we see right here in Genesis 46, where he say our fathers are shepherds. This is our trade. This is our occupation. But how are shepherds abominations to the Egyptians? Let's look at Proverbs 29 and 27 and see how. It says, An unjust man is an abomination to the just, and he that is upright in the way is an abomination to the wicked. Notice he said he that's upright in the way. So an unjust man is an abomination to the just. Do we not see how the scribes and the Pharisees, by reason of being sinners, that how Yahusha was an abomination unto them? That they hated him because he was a shepherd. His whole duty and focus was to feed the people. Jeremiah 31 and 10.
That Eno. God want his son.
Indeed. And after that, John chapter 10. Because we finna get ready to cut this off.
Michael.
Put it down. Put it down.
Make that Jeremiah 31 and 7. I'll deal with that feeding part another day.
Mar.
Y'all willing. Jeremiah 31 and 7.
Get up.
31 and 6. For there shall be a day that the watchmen upon the Mount Ephraim shall cry, Arise ye, and let us go up to Zion unto Yahuwah Elohim. For thus saith Yahuwah, sing with gladness for Jacob, and shout among the chief of the nations. Publish ye, praise ye, and say, O Yahuwah, save thy people, the remnant of Yasharal. Behold, I will bring them from the north country, and gather them from the coast of the earth. And with them the blind and the lame, the women with child, and her that travail with child together. A great company shall return thither. They shall come with weeping and with supplications will I lead them, and I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Yasharal, and Ephraim is my firstborn. You notice how he said he'd lead them by waters? Just like what David wrote in Psalms. And it's the same thing that it says in Isaiah 49 or what's written in Revelation 22, that he will lead you beside still waters, or the rivers of living water, of what we discussed Wednesday. So we see two separate instances of him being the father of those who keep cattle and those who dwell in tents. Because in dwelling in that tent, you dwelling in Jerusalem where the living waters are. And then he said he'll lead his cattle or his flock by these waters and cause them to drink from these waters, that they might live forever. If you understand that you the sheep of his pasture or the cattle of his flock. Hear the word of Yahuwah, O ye nations, and declare it, and the isles are far off, and say, he that scattered Yasharal will gather him and keep him as a shepherd doth his flock. For Yahuwah have ransomed Jacob and ransomed him from the hand of him that is stronger than he. He done ransomed you from the power of death, so he could gather you back because you were scattered. John 10:1. Truly, truly, I say unto you that he that enter not by the door into the sheepfold, but climb up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. But he that enter in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter open, and the sheep hear his voice, and he call his own sheep by name and lead them out. The same thing we seen with Adam in the beginning. And when he put forth his own sheep, and he go before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. And a stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers. This parable spake Yahusha unto them, but they understood not what these things were which he spake unto them. Then said Yahusha unto them again, truly, truly, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them, just like we seen in Ezekiel 34. I am the door. By me if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. The thief come not but for to kill, but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd give his life for the sheep. But he that is a hireling and not the shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, see the wolf coming and leave the sheep, and flee, and the wolf catch them and scatter the sheep. The hireling flee because he is a hireling, he care not for the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and are known of mine. And as the Father know me, even so know I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Let's go to verse 25, 22 in this same instance and finish it up. And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication, and it was winter. And Yahusha walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Then came the Yahudim round about him, and said unto him, how long dost thou make us to doubt? If thou be the Mashiach, tell us plainly. Yahusha answered them, I told you, and you believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But you believe not, because you are not of my sheep, as I said unto you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. So if you turn around and you look at how he say he's that the father of those that keep cattle. I say this is very, very extensive matter. We could go on, and we could go on all night, truth be told. Just for every aspect that it deals with about keeping cattle. In Jeremiah 3:15, he told you that he would give you pastors after his own heart that would feed you with knowledge and understanding. And one of the meanings for Ra'ah is to teach. So he said that he would set up pastors that are of his household, because he is the progenitor of those who keep cattle, or those who preach the word, who teach, lead, and direct his people for the purpose of receiving salvation. And Yahusha being the chief shepherd, as we read in 1 Peter chapter 5. And every apostle, every prophet, every pastor, every evangelist, every teacher are of that household of those who keep cattle. So when we finished looking at Jabal, we actually seen three different things. We see how he was that stream of water which lead to everlasting life, pointing to Yahusha. We see how he is the birth of those who dwell in tents, pointing to Yahusha. And we see how he is those who keep cattle, which is pointing to Yahusha, as he is the one who oversees the people, feeds the people, and then births people for that same cause and purpose. So hallelujah for Yahusha in the word, and we'll stop right there.